Que pasa, mi amigos? It is I, Nima. I'm here to talk about a game I picked up recently, and a game that I was very excited for in the start of 2022, probably my most hyped game for this month, and that was RPGolf Legends, which is an action RPG slash golf game, and it seemed really, really cool. Anyway, before we get into that, I do want to remind all of you to please like and subscribe, especially if you want to see me get hit in the junk. But without further ado, let's talk about RPGolf Legends. Now, in this game, you start off as Erin, and she lives in a world where golf has been banned. It's under attack by evil creatures. And what they did is they put these magic, unbreakable barriers around golf courses all over the world. Now, as you're exploring your little island, she discovers a magical golf club. This golf club not only is bloodthirsty, which we'll get to later, but also has the ability to break these barriers. And as predicted, you and your magical golf club now set forth across the world to break barriers, to unlock golf courses, and to bring golf back to the world. And that's basically the main story of the game. I will say that the writing in the game makes it incredibly engaging and hilarious. It's very meta, which I like. I like a game that doesn't take itself too serious, and they often refer to the title of the game or the fact that you're playing a game. They'll say something like, well, if we don't do this, it would make a really short game, and the devs put a lot of work into it, so we might as well do it. Things like that, which are really funny to me. The actual gameplay basically revolves around a loop. And yeah, I know when you hear loop, you get a little concerned that it'd be monotonous or boring, but it's actually not. It's pretty fun and engaging. But essentially, you get to a new island, and you go and you break the barrier, the first barrier. Well, after you do that and you play one hole of golf, you have to fill up the magical gauge again on your golf club. Now, to do this, you have to bludgeon animals. And yes, you can beat any enemies, even the bad one, like the evil ones that attack you, but also just the ones that have like zero aggro at all. They're just hanging out being animals, but your golf club needs that blood to satisfy itself so it can expel its barrier-breaking magic. You go up to them and just whack the crap out of him, and he gets his magic, and then you break another barrier, and you unlock another hole. For the most part, it's like a 9-hole course, so you kind of got to do this kind of repetitively, but there are a ton of side quests in the game that really break up this repetition. Now, kind of a missed opportunity for me, if you will, is with all of these side quests, there's plenty of opportunities for growth, for resource collecting, for access to like short form dungeons, and to even like some boss level enemies. But the one thing that it doesn't do when you complete a side quest is fill up that magical gauge. So you still gotta go out and feed your blood hungry golf club's desire for cute animal flesh and progress the story. But I feel like they probably should have tied those in a little bit better. Now granted, on a lot of the side quests, you do have to kill animals anyway and have to fight imps and things of that nature. So it's going to fill up your magical gauge anyway, but I do think you should get a bonus for completing side quests. I don't know, it's just my thought on it. And the actual combat of the game is very simple. Think a la Link to the Past Zelda type, where you have an attack button, you have a block button, and that's pretty much it. Now, you also, at some point, do gain access to magical spells, and the only downside about these magical spells is you have to borrow them from your bloodthirsty buddy, who also drains the magical gauge. So, in so many ways, like, you don't want to use it because you're just trying to unlock the next golf hole. That sounds weird. But you're not unlocking a golf course, so yeah, you're unlocking another hole, which just, has a weird thing to it. But anyway, that's basically the essence of the combat in general. There's not a lot to it, but it's simple and it's fun and it's fast-paced, which I really like. Now, one downside, though, I will say, is I feel like there's a slight bit delay sometimes. Like, there's not a lot of opportunities for button mashing. I'll put it that way. If you go in more than like twice in a row, there seems to be like a stutter. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's not like game breaking or anything, because the combat is pretty laxed in the game. They give you a lot of opportunities to not die, and even if you do die, you don't actually die. Just something bad happens, and literally that's what it's called. And then you just respawn not far from where the bad thing happened. The actual golf, on the other hand, is also very simplistic. Like, if you're really into golf games and you're into, like, I don't know, wedges and whatever golf terms are, I wouldn't really expect too much out of this because there's not a lot there. And it's very simple. It's basic kind of guess how many yards you're going to hit the ball, try to stay within that parameter, hit, your gauges right, and try to hit under par. And if you do, the better you do, the more rewards you get at the end. Like, if you hit a birdie, you can roll twice for two different types of rewards, one being money, and the other one actually filling up the magical golf gauge, which is nice, because sometimes you can get 100% filled up and you can get like 1,000 coins, and it really sets you up for the next hole. As for visuals, I really like the art style that the dev team went with this game, because it really matches the narrative and dialogue, meaning it's detailed and it's very clear and crisp, but it's also kind of cutesy and stays in like that serious but not too serious realm, and it definitely shows the aspects of the humor that can happen in the game and how it takes the game's narrative and runs with the art style as well. I really appreciate it. It's nothing like game breaking. You're not going to play it and go, oh my god, this is the best graphics I've ever seen. But I think for what they do, they facilitate it very, very well. So what would I change? What would I make different in the game? There's only really two things that I say kind of stick out as problematic, and it's not even like game breaking or a big issue. But the first thing is, I do wish the side quests would reward you with like MP to fill your magic gauge. That just makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know. I keep hanging on that, and I don't know why, but it does bother me. The other thing would be just the controls, and especially in combat, they just don't feel amazingly tight. Now, again, the game kind of fixes this by the fact that they are very forgiving, and I've never died as a result of like loose controls. It's just, to me, if they were going to do a patch, that's one thing that I would suggest that they kind of just tighten up a little bit. Outside of that, the game is great. I have no complaints at all. As I said, this is one of my most anticipated games of 2022. Starting off in 2022. I know there's like a million games coming out in 2022, but it was the first one I was excited for, and it really lived up to it. I really, really appreciate everything that this game did. I love all of the NPCs. I love the environment of the game. Even the like combat / golf mechanics of the game I find are very engaging and enjoyable. I spent so much time just roaming around, exploring, and that's another thing I love about the game. You can find different dungeons that you wouldn't find if you didn't explore a little bit, if you didn't take on extra side quests. There's so much about this game that I really, really admire. And I would have to say that if anyone's even thinking about it, they should pick it up. Or if you're a fan of like Zelda type games, ARPGs, or retro games, or honestly most indie games, you should get it. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely been so far, and I know it's still early in the year, but it's definitely been like my favorite, best game so far of 2022. Anyway, if you guys are thinking about picking it up, I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on it, or if you have picked it up, do you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever. I'm interested in having that conversation and talking about RPGolf Legends, and man, I don't know how to say that. It's either, yeah, whatever. One other thing, if you stayed all the way to the end, just a quick conversation that I would like to have. This game calls itself an RPG, but I feel like every aspect of it is not an RPG. It's like it's an action game. I don't know. I'm kind of hung up on that, like, what makes it an RPG? There's very little customization. There's no choices, really, that you can make. So, yeah, what aspect of it is RPG? I don't know. Just a thought in my head. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate you. You have a great day. Take care.